speltout.com/webinars. So I want to welcome you all to the Paladin's Excellence in Coaching webinar series. My name is Charles Owen. I am at Paladin, and my role is Business Alliances. Time to time, I do several other functions, as you know, like these webinars for one, demonstrations, and also consultations. So I've been with Paladin about 8 years. Topic for today is 9 functions of the RF gun. Apparently, it's a very popular topic, and I'm excited about that. There's lots of information to share. It can be rather deceiving when you first turn on the gun and go, geez, it doesn't do a whole lot, and it actually does. It does a number of different things, and and more importantly, it does things in real time, so we'll talk about that. So the goals of this webinar series, as you know, is to make you better users of the system, more well-versed on the product, so you can get more out of Paladin. Appreciate you tuning in today. I'm being assisted by Chad Klein, who is going to be reviewing all those questions coming down. So feel free, send questions down. He's going to be answering them for you. He'll respond, and then at the end of the presentation, I'll go ahead and open it up to folks if you want to ask questions. I can unmute it. Right now, everybody is in mute mode. All right, at the end of the presentation, there'll be a real quick survey. It's like 3 or 4 questions, very benign. Please answer that. It helps us plan these things for the future. And again, if you miss part of this presentation, you may tune in to paladinpointofsale.com/webinars and view any one of these webinar series that we filmed, this one or any one in the past. All right, so let's begin with the first slide here. So what we're going to talk about today is the RF gun. That is a picture of it. You can see also I have a little device here as well with me, but I am going to be showing some of the screenshots. So we're going to talk about how it works, the capabilities, the overall benefit of having an RF terminal, as well as going over the different features, all 9 of them, as I mentioned, 9 functions of the RF gun, and then how to order it, and then I'll demonstrate some of the screenshots to give you an idea of how the system works. And maybe if you're a current customer and you're using the RF terminal, maybe I can show you some things that you haven't seen yet, which I've got a few up my sleeve, so we'll get to that. Slide number 2 here. So how it works. It connects to Paladin in real time. There's nothing really running on this device. It's running in Paladin, and this system, or this RF gun, hooks up through radio frequency, hence the term RF terminal, to the Paladin system, and anything you do on the gun is done instantly in the Paladin system. There are multiple various optional settings that you can go in and tweak to kind of set the behavior of the gun. For example, a lot of folks may or may not know this, you can require a login. Right now it uses a login from who's ever logged into the terminal, and where you go into inventory and select RF gun. But if you wanted to be a specific person, you track the specific person doing the actual function, you can require this gun to have a login. You can also determine the type and style of bin tag or item tag label that you want to print out, and do things like hide cost and or retail on the display screen of the RF gun. Next is capabilities. So what is this thing used for? Well, it's used for reviewing your inventory, number 1, first and foremost. Cycle counting is a component of that. You can also do one-off ordering and receiving. We don't recommend using the gun for all of your receiving or ordering, for that matter. We recommend that you use the suggested order. That's the whole reason you bought Paladin, to just make it easier to order, help trim down your inventory a little bit, put a little money back in your pocket. At the same time, reducing those outs by using the suggested order to calculate out an optimal stocking supply. You can also manage the retail prices from the gun, as well as generate bin tags and assign location codes. A lot of folks that I talk to that are using the gun, I ask them, how are you doing on location codes? And they say, oh, we don't use location codes. Well, that's fine. You don't have to use them. But there are benefits to using them, particularly if you're ordering now either using a gun or walking around with a tablet like you used to in the olden days. If you're still doing that, there are alternatives that are going to increase your efficiencies immensely, as you know. But by signing the location codes, you can kind of chunk out sections of your store to do suggested ordering. So it's a great, the RF terminal is a great catalyst to moving into a suggested order, because assigning location codes is just simple. And if you assign location codes, now you can run your suggested orders based on location codes. So you can go count a 4-foot section, boom, from that moment forward, that 4-foot section, if you're using the gun and you put a location code in, now has that 4-foot section as a particular location, and you can run suggested orders on that location. And then you just kind of proliferate that same action throughout your entire store. We talk about this all the time, folks. You've seen it in past webinars. Suggested ordering is where it's at. All right, so what's the overall benefit of the RF terminal? Quite simply, it helps you review and maintain your largest investment, which is your inventory, right? You might have $250,000, $500,000, $3 million sitting on your shelves. You got to move that stuff. You got to manage it. You got to track it. You got to make sure that it's performing for you, just like stocks and bonds. So we make it real easy using this remote device, that hooks up to the system in real time that you can use up to a mile away or more. More if you don't have walls and hills and other things between it. But it really is a great on-campus remote device that you can walk around and review your investment, maintain your investment, and track everything in the system remotely. That is the overall #1 benefit of the gun. So now to the good part. What are the 9 functions of the RF gun? All right, so I've indicated the first 4, which you see on the device. So if I go into the device and I log in, now I've got a login actually set up here, so it prompts me with a login. And I'm showing this for all of you watching this afterwards. I'm actually showing this on the webcam, but we'll get into these screenshots. I'll show you these in a moment. I just wanted to kind of show you that the 4 options that are on there right now are listed here. Override stock on hand. What is that used for? Well, typically it's used when you're reviewing your investment. You're walking around the store. You're picking a section. We recommend, for best practices, that every day or every 3 times a week or whenever you decide it's appropriate, send your cashiers or yourself out to the aisles and count a small 15 to 20-minute section of inventory. And then the next day, take off where you'll take from where you left off the prior day, count more, and then the next day count more, and the next day count more. If you do this habitually all the time, eventually you're going to go around your whole store and you're going to count your store within, could be weeks, could be months. But keep it up, because that's going to track the shrinkage. And the shrinkage is those items that are going out the door that don't necessarily go through the Paladin system. And we all know we got to track those so that we're not losing money. So the override stock on hand is a great method of reviewing your inventory. You can actually, when you have the gun, you're out in the aisles, you can see on the gun how much the retail is. Make sure it matches the sticker. It tells you also how many you have on hand, how many, and then you tell it what the actual count is based on how many it says you have on hand, and that's how it figures out the shrinkage. All right, #2, append to stock on hand. So if you count your inventory in your store and then you count the same items out in your warehouse, you don't want to override stock on hand for both areas of the store. You need to append to stock on hand. So that's what that's used for. Create purchase order. So this is pretty much an obvious no-brainer. You can take this gun and walk your store, and as you scan, you can tell it how many you want of a certain item, and you can create a pending purchase order. Then you can go over to the system, tweak it before you send it off, and that's how you can use the Paladin RF terminal to order. Now, I look at this as kind of a stopgap solution for 2 reasons for ordering. One, it's kind of a stopgap solution while you're ramping up to do your suggested ordering, right? So maybe you have some more counting to do, or or you're just trying to get your store in order, or if you've done a store reset, whatever the reason is, it's a good tool to use to get you to suggested order. Beyond that, it could be used for one-off suppliers, like maybe you have a local supplier that provides, one of your areas of your store, and you can go in and order just for that one supplier and send that off. You can do that one-off by using the gun. Now, if it's items that sell regularly, you should use a suggested order for that. But again, you can use the gun as well. Okay. The fourth item on the display list here is receive. So you can add to stock. So as you receive a truck in, you can take the RF gun and go over and you just scan the items you bring in. Those are for one-offs. Those aren't necessarily for your electronic data interchange or your EDIs to your large wholesalers or suppliers. Those would be done electronically normally. But if you've got a couple of suppliers or one-off suppliers that you want to bring items in, or you're still in the process of ramping up to using EDI, say you're an early store and you're just starting out, we recommend that you use EDI from the get-go, but this is another alternative to use temporarily. So those are what's on the display itself. So what about those items that aren't on the display? What else can this thing do? Well, it can print bin tags or item tags, and it can print those to your hip or to your printer, depending on the printer type that you're looking for, the output you're looking for. For example, item tags, I think they can, yes, they can be printed on, well, it's either one, the hip printer or the stationary printer. I forget at this point. But if you look at the knowledge base, we have a very, very nice document that was created, and we continually update it, about all the labels, reports, item tags, and we call it the LTSR report. So if you go to knowledge base and search LTSR, then you will see and find this catalog. This catalog is chock full of different bin tag styles and types, and then where you can print those from, either from a laser printer and batch, from a stationary dedicated printer, which can have multiple around your store, and or an item tag, which can print a tag specifically put on an item. So it also has other things like some of the custom reports and things that are in the system. So take a look at that LTSR under knowledge base. So number 6 here, assign alternate part numbers. So when you scan an item with the RF gun, you walk up and you either scan the bin tag or you scan the item itself and it says, nope, not found. Oh boy, what do we do now? Well, more than likely, whatever that number is, isn't tied to that item in the inventory for whatever reason. It may be that you're printing out a different bin tag number that you choose because the way you want to do things. We offer multiple different numbers to be printed as those barcodes. So that's one reason. Another reason is maybe it wasn't put into your inventory yet. Maybe you received a brand new item, you scan it, and it says, oh, can't find. Well, it'll let you put in an alternate part number at that point. So if you know the order number, if you know the supplier number, or you know the barcode, or there's another barcode on the actual item that you can scan, it'll now assign that that barcode that you first scanned with the second one and tie it to the item in the inventory. So it lets you add alternate part numbers. Kind of a cool thing. All right, what's number 7? Change retail price. Anytime you do a count, you do an override, an append, a crate PO, and or receive, it lets you go in and change the retail if you want to change the retail. And at the time that you change the retail, what would you want to do? Well, you'd probably want to print a bin tag to put that on the label on the shelf itself in order to keep the customers seeing the same price on the shelf as they do at checkout. Very important, of course. All right, so it lets you change the retails from anywhere at any time using the RF gun. And number 8, assign location codes. Again, as I mentioned before, you can, first thing you have to do is create a location code in your locations folder, and that's under the file setup on Paladin, and go into locations. Once you go into locations, then you create codes. Now we have a webinar specifically targeted at assigning location codes to your store by using a grid or using your planogram of your store, and kind of a technique to assigning those location codes. I would recommend reviewing that if you haven't already done so, if you don't have location codes. But now that you have location code, you'll see when I show you the screenshots here that when you go over to the aisles, first thing it asks you after, you know, what labels do you want and that sort of thing, it says, hey, what location are you in? Can I assign a location code to these items? And yes, you can. You just put the location ID, not the description, but the ID. And that ID will correspond with that location code list, and it will assign that location code and description to that item as you scan it. Pretty nice. All right, that's a very quick way to do it. So what's a final thing that it can do? I mentioned to you I had a couple things up my sleeve. Well, this is one of those, create a sale list. So I've been asked previously, hey, is there a way I can just take the gun, walk around my store, and put stuff on sale? And I said, well, I think there's a way we can do that real easy in the system, and that is to create a pending PO using the gun and then importing that pending PO into a sale list. Now, there's a few steps in between that have to be done, but it is, in fact, there is a knowledge-based article that is on the subject. I know I wrote it up. I'm pretty sure it's out there. If not, it should be out there shortly. But if you want more information on it, you can contact customer service or just send me an email, charles@paladinpos.com, and I'll be more than happy to send that procedure out to you. I've already sent it out to a number of folks that have requested this feature. Basically, what you're doing is this. You're taking the RF gun, you're saying create a pending PO, walk around, you scan the items that you want to put on sale, and then you go into Paladin under the maintain. It's under the maintain section, data viewer, and under there's a tab called purchase order. All right, when you click purchase order, down below it says export this as an inventory item. And that's kind of cool because you can export it and it puts out all the export columns that you would normally get exporting the inventory, but all you're looking for are two, right? We're looking for the product code number, the ID, and the whatever the sale price you want to put in there. So there's a number of different ways to achieve a sale price. You can put 0 if you want as a sale price, and then dictate a sales price when you create the pricing plan, right? Or you can create a sale list with actual prices in it. And we have things like the last cost, the average cost, and the market cost in that export file. So what you could do is just highlight whatever column you want, put a formula on it that says, you know, discount 20% and make that my sale price. And now you have 2 columns, save that, and then you go into sale and you import it. So I don't want to get into specifics, but it is a very nice way to walk your store and put items on sale. All right, so let's go into my next slide here, which talks about how to order. So if you already have an RF gun, great. If you want some more, you can get them. They're on the newstore.paladinpos.com website. We have a new store. If you haven't signed up for your login and password yet, there's information about it. If you go to the features, I believe it's on the features tab when you first bring up Paladin, you search for store, it'll come up. Otherwise, we sent you an email on it, or you can call customer service. They can walk you through the process. But everybody's store login and passwords have changed. So, and you're going to have one now for your entire store, not per each individual. That was the difference of the stores. So you can order these products directly on the store. We'll bill your account, and it's just under RF scanners. Cost for one and the tower or the antenna and everything is about $2,000. If you buy 2 or more, the price drops considerably. So you get a much better deal if you buy more quantities. You only need 1 antenna to operate multiple RF guns, providing you don't have thick walls between where you're going with the scanner. All right. So let's show you the slideshow here. So I've got some screenshots. So yesterday I thought, how am I going to do this for the folks watching this on a recording? I have to show these photographs on an actual, on the slideshow or on the, within the PowerPoint presentation. So I've done that. This is the first one. This one that you see here is the worth data. When you first turn on the device, it comes up and it says, gives you an option to sign on. That's all you'll be doing with this. The setup and the other features on there, we will help you with as far as setting those features up in the system. But you'll sign on, and then we'll take you to the next screen. So now, I know this looks a little hokey, but again, this is just my, my little Samsung phone taking photographs of the device itself. I think it gets a point across. The first thing it asks, if you have login activated, is for your 4-digit login code, so your screen login or sign-on code. All right, so you can put that code in. If you don't already have that, then it's going to just come right to the choose your mode, override stock on hand, append, build working PO, or receive stock. Those 4 items that I showed you on the list of 9 functions. So if you select number 1 and you go to, the first thing that's going to come up, say, hey, is there a bin tag output device attached to this? Meaning, do you have a hip printer? All right, if you have a hip printer that's either hooked up through Bluetooth or through a cord, then you're going to say yes. I don't, so I say no. The no is just pressing on the 0 key, and I'll show you that at the end of this slideshow. I'll show you the keys and kind of how to get around. Right now I'm just kind of showing you the different screens that are available. So you select no, which is 0, as I mentioned, on the number pad. And then it comes up and says, okay, in that case, do you have a dedicated printer? You can have up to 4 per RF gun in your store, or in your store per terminal. I think it's per terminal. I don't know why you would, but let's say you would want to have maybe one in the south corner, one in the north, one in the east, one in the west. That way you can easily get to that printer and tear it off if you didn't spring for one of the hip printers. All right, so you select your label printer that you want to print out. So you're in section 2, so you'd select section 2. Then it comes up, the middle screen here we're looking at, shows the printing method. So you've already told it you wanted to print a bin tag. Do you want to do it for all bin tags? Or print every item that you call up? Do you want it to print, or just those that you're changing the price on? Or do you want item tags? This is where you can identify that you want item tags instead of bin tags. All right. So after you get through with that, it then comes up and prompts you with location. This is where you put in your location ID. All right. So that's the third and final screen on the right. You just put in whatever your location is, 1, 2, 3, 4, what have you. And then next, after that, it comes up and it says scan. And it actually verbally says scan. You probably heard it if you have a unit. Obviously, you have. And so it comes up, and then it says down below, it says, hey, if you want to enter a different location, so if you're moving from location to location as you're scanning, and you're ready to assign a different location code on the next batch of items that you're counting, you can just press the begin and then enter, and then that will allow you to change the location. All right. But if you scan the item, in this case we scan a utility knife, it comes up and says, I have 5 on hand. What's your quantity? All right. I count 4. So you pop in 4. You can see the next screen on the right says quantity 4. All right. So you've counted. So you not only counted, but you the next screen is you're going to validate that the price is the same sales price as it's on the sticker. And if you want to change it, you can do it at this point. But if you're done, you just hit enter, and now you're ready to scan your second item, and third item, fourth item. You just walk through your items. All right, so it's very quick once you get into the mode that you want to do. Pardon me. So the next mode is receive stock. So you can go in and you can receive stock. And in this case, it comes up and says, I have 2 on hand. How many do you want to receive? So this would be the case where you have something coming in on the truck and you're not doing it through electronic data interchange. So you just put in the receive amount there. All right. The next option would be, let's talk about number 3, building a working PO. So building a working PO, this is nice because we've added recently where you can actually see your last 4 weeks of activity and your last year of sales activity. Shows it on that second line there. You put a little gray arrow on that one. We're looking at the middle frame. And then it comes down where you have stock on hand. It says you have 4. What do you want to order? All right. So once you select what you want to order, the next thing that pops up is, again, it's going to say sell price, and it will ask you, and it actually talks to you. So the reason it talks to you is if you get distracted, it's going to tell you where you're at without you thinking, oh, well, what screen am I on? It'll just tell you verbally. Tell you what screen you're at and what function you're doing. All right, so we have an opportunity, again, to change the retail price if we need to. Moving into the final slide of this presentation at my 27-minute check-in here, which I have to stay under my 30 minutes. I've got a few minutes left here. I'm showing the bottom of the RF gun, and I've got some different colored arrows. So the on-off is the first on the left. The gold arrow is the on-off key. The yes or no is the very bottom. The gray arrow I show is the number 0. Now, if you need to change it to yes, you just press the Shift up blue key on the top right-hand corner indicated with a red arrow, and then press 0. If you wanted no, you just press 0. And then the F1 at the top allows you to change modes. And then on the middle left-hand side, you can do one-off bin tag label printing. So you just press the pound key at quantity and hit enter, and it will produce the bin tags for you right at that time. All right. Again, I have completed my presentation in less than 30 minutes. We've got a couple of minutes now. If anybody wants to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand. I will unmute you. Otherwise, if you've gotten your answers to your questions based on your texting, that's great. Chad, you want to chime in here?
Yeah, there's been a few questions, but nothing that hasn't been answered.
Okay, anything that I missed or skipped in the presentation that you might want to share with everybody?
No, not that I can think of. One second, I got one question coming in here.
Okay.
So Brock was asking if there was a way to assign new mins max items, new mins and maxes from the RF gun, and I informed him that there was not a way to do that, but with the proper history, Paladin should be automatically setting the min maxes for him. And he has a bit of a newer store, and not sure if he has enough history to do it, to adjust it for me. And so he finds the suggested order has too many items on there. It's just kind of the conversation that we've been having with each other back and forth here.
Yeah, that's a good subject matter. So Chad said that Brock had a question regarding the capability to change the minimum stock on hand or reorder point and maximum from the RF gun. The answer is no. The minimums and maximums should not be locked. If you want to use Paladin the way it was designed, using and leveraging the dynamic algorithms that were built to manufacture an optimal stocking supply based on real-time demand, not based on a fixed reorder point and fixed maximum. Now, the issue that Brock brought to the table is not untypical or atypical. It is something that's fairly normal. When you start doing suggested ordering, especially if we do a data conversion from another system, there are certain items like special order items and other things that kind of need to be locked out of the suggested order report. So it is normal that there potentially are lots of items that need to be set up for, or that will show up on your suggested order report that you don't necessarily want there. But that's just part of the cleanup process and the process of implementing the suggested ordering and making that very effective. But if you were to go in and change the mins and the maxes and lock those in, that would defeat that whole purpose of giving you optimal stocking supply. Now, I understand that there are a lot of you that for some items, like some electrical items, maybe some plumbing items, you just want a boatload of them to handle those projects. That's okay. If you want to go in and set your minimums really high, that's totally fine. Lock those in. You're going to have tons of product. It's okay by me. But we're still going to process those algorithms and make a determination on the maximum amount you need based on prior history of sales, in addition to the minimum display that you want to put on the screen. So that minimum display is just that. I never want to get below this amount, but Paladin's still going to work on raising the bar on that, on the items, to make sure that it's accommodating all of your customers' demands. But you've just got this insurance of 30 more that you always want in the bin because you never want it to look empty, or you want to handle those projects. Totally fine. But you don't want to be making those changes from the RF gun. Again, the RF gun, look at it as a tool to migrate from manual ordering, which I call manual ordering using a gun, to using the suggested ordering, because that is really the holy grail of the point-of-sale system, particularly with Paladin, since we're the only ones that really enable these dynamic algorithms to look at historical sales and assign these dynamic mins and maxes. Any other questions?
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, sure. I've got something else from Michelle, and I think it's because she may have an older version of an RF gun, but she's asking why her RF gun doesn't have the assign a printer question.
Good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I was thinking it could be perhaps an outdated model or something like that.
Not likely. I think the older models and the newer models all use the same interface. It shouldn't be different at all. However, if you have not set up a printer in your system under the Network tab, so if you go File, Setup, Network, and that is only available to administrators, you can go in and determine and set up either an RF printer and or a dedicated printer. So you either have a wireless or a dedicated wired printer. Once you set that up, then you go into the File Setup Company tab, and you can tune the RF gun and assign it particular printers. If you don't have printers assigned, it's not going to ask you, at least I don't believe it's going to ask you what printer to print to if you don't have any printers assigned. So that sounds like a setup issue to me, Michelle. So I don't think it has to do with you having an older gun. There are two different models. The one we have today is a handheld. Looks like it's got a handle and a trigger, and you kind of hold it like you'd hold a pistol. The other one was more of a oblong or rectangular device that didn't have a trigger, or it had a trigger, but it didn't have a handle on it. But it still should be identical as far as functionality.
Thank you, Charles.
Well, thank you, guys. Okay, great. Thanks, Chad. And just to let you know, we'll be doing this again next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Tune in for that. We're going to have a really innovative and inspirational webinar. I don't know what it is at this moment, but I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. More than likely, Chad will be doing it. So tune in for that. Again, to see this presentation, you can always go to paladinpointofsales.com/webinars, plural. And thank you all for your participation. Really appreciate it. Hope you got something out of this. And do fill out the webinar questionnaire at the end. Thank you.